Hey everyone and welcome back. If you are new here then hello, my name is Zoe and this is my YouTube channel. Today we are concentrating solely on the base today. This is my flawless, soft glam, Instagram model vibes, glowy vibes, base skin makeup. Sometimes I find I do rush through this a lot in my tutorials, but a lot of it's the same and I like to use the same stuff. But this is my go-to soft glam flawless base routine. I really hope you do enjoy it. Let me know if you do down in the comments. Please give it a big thumbs up as well and don't forget to subscribe, and let's just get straight into it. I have already done my skincare this morning, so I used the La Roche-Posay Toleriane the Ultra Cream, and then underneath that I've used the Ordinary, the Hyaluronic Acid. So I've already used those this morning. I'm just going to give my skin a little bit of a refresh, so I'm just going to use this, which is the Hyaluronic Acid Facial Spritz from Superdrug, and I'm just going to actually spray it onto my hands because I don't want this going over my eyes because I've already done my eye makeup. Because this is going to be more of a flawless sort of soft glam base, I want it to be just a little bit more glowy and a little bit more fresh. So I'm next going to use my MAC strobe cream in Gold Light, but I've mixed in a couple of these drops. So these are the Liquid Chrome Highlighter drops from Barry M. So I've just mixed 2 drops in with just a little bit of that, and I'm applying it with a Real Techniques Expert face brush, and this is just going on the high points of the face. So I'm not popping this all over, just where I want a little bit of extra glow to come through on the foundation. I am going to be doing a more sort of matted down version, so like a full coverage makeup routine, like a full coverage base, and my tips for more of like a matte version, like if you're going out or something. But this is my soft glam version. For my soft glam base, I'm going to use the L'Oreal Pro Glow foundation. I absolutely love this. This is in 204 and 205, so I mixed these two together. And to firstly apply it, I'm going to use this Blank Canvas F20 brush. It's just like a flat buffer brush. So I'm just going to pick some up and then I'm just going to start patting this on. This is a medium coverage, but it is buildable and it is quite glowy as well. So for more of like a soft glam base where you want it to be flawless, but at the same time you don't want it to look like you're wearing loads of foundation and loads of makeup, this is a really nice one, especially if you have dry skin. Always remember to blend it down onto your neck as well. So all I'm doing is just pressing this in. I don't rub it around because I don't like to irritate my skin underneath, and this just really pushes it into the skin as well. You can build up quite a nice coverage with most foundations really using this technique. I usually prefer a beauty blender, but for some reason this foundation I find applies best and works best if you do a brush first and then go over with your beauty blender. And then I'm going to buff it up to my hairline. I've had to put a headband on because my roots are that bad, because I am like a natural redhead anyway, but when it's down, like, you can see like the different shade of ginger coming through, which is not an attractive look at all. And because I have already done my eyebrows, I'm just going to take just a smaller brush and just get as close to my eyebrows as I can. I can always just titivate my brows a bit later on. I just find it impossible to do my makeup without doing eyebrows first. Please let me know if you're the same in the comments. I always end up going over them with foundation, but I just can't do my makeup without having my eyebrows on first. That would be my first layer, and I am going to go in just to build this up a little bit. For a soft glam makeup, you really want to build your foundation in layers. It's easier to build that way rather than just sort of piling all the foundation on and then trying to blend it out. This way it's going to look flawless, but it's not going to look like you are caked in makeup, and that is the key. Okay, so that is my second layer. This is when I go in with the beauty blender now. So I'll just get my beauty blender and just pat all that in, just so there's no streaks. Really push it into the skin, and then you can see if you want to apply any more in any other places, because this won't cake up or look cakey because you've applied it gradually. Say foundation is one of the things that I do spend the most time on because I do like quite a full coverage, but I don't like it to look like I'm wearing loads and loads of makeup. I'm happy with the coverage of that now. That does look really nice, really flawless, and a really nice coverage. So I'm going to do my concealer next. So I'm just going to kind of conceal my under eyes first, and then I'm going to come back later and do all my highlighting. So I'm going to use, this is just my favourite, the Makeup Revolution concealer. I'm using the shade C5. So I'm going to use this one first to conceal my under eyes because they are quite red at the minute because I've just got the worst hay fever. So this is just going under eyes first, and then we are going to do our contouring, and then I'm going to highlight later on. So I'm going to get right in this inner corner because I'm always quite dark there. And I'm just going to just sort of wing it out, even though I haven't really got much eye makeup on today. Just do a little, just to sharpen it up a bit. So you can just leave this to sit there for a little bit, because if you do let your concealer sit a bit, it does give you a little bit of extra coverage because it does start to set. So sometimes I'll just like give it a little bit of a waft dry, and honestly the change in the coverage is amazing. This will give you so much more coverage if you just wait for it a little bit. So I use the same side of my sponge which I've just done the foundation with, so I'll do these first before we move on to contour. So again, I really push it in, I'm not sweeping around, especially in this inner corner. Really push it in to try and cover that darkness, and then later on we can highlight those areas if you want to. You don't have to. And then just on the outer corner, I'm just going to blend it back, just because it is a little bit lighter than my foundation, just so it doesn't finish in a strange place. I just blend it all the way back. And then the same with this eye. Okay, so that has concealed my under eyes. It's probably maybe 1 or 2 shades lighter than my foundation, but not much different. So we can brighten those areas later on. If you don't need as much coverage as I do, then you can just use one concealer. But I definitely need a little bit of extra help at the moment. So that is pretty much base done, apart from contour and a little bit of highlight. So let's move on to contour. So for that, I'm going to use the Alley Girl Pro Concealer in the shade Beautiful Bronze, which is my favourite. And I like to apply this onto my hand first rather than draw it on, because can be quite hard to blend out sometimes. And I'm going to use my Real Techniques contour brush for this. So I just kind of buff it into the back of my hand first, and then I start from the top of my ear into the hollow of my cheeks where I want most of it, and then I sort of buff down the excess onto my cheeks here. I do prefer more of like a bronzier contour because then I can warm up the skin as well. Doing it this way with creams first, one, I just think looks a little bit better because you can just really blend all the creams into one, and two, I don't have to use as many powders after, so we can keep as much of the glow as we can. So around my forehead as well, and I come round into my temple. Try not to go over my eyebrows because I've done the soap brows today, so I don't want to make a mess with them. Always do all of your creams first before you apply any powder because it's so much more easier to blend. So if I wasn't going to use another concealer and I set my under eyes now, it'd be quite hard to blend this up onto my cheeks because there might be a little bit of powder there, and then it can just get a little bit messy. So always try and use all your creams first before you do any powders. And then I will match this up in the middle, and then again round onto my temple. And then I just do a little bit underneath my chin area, just so it kind of balances everything out. And then I just like go like roughly over my nose because I can't contour my nose. We all know that by now. And then just taking my beauty blender, blending all those together. You want your beauty blender to be damp, but you don't want it to be too wet. So wring as much water as you can out of your sponge, so it just stays, I don't want to say the M word. Damp is a lot better than the M word. So yeah, just keep it damp, not the M word, but you know what I mean. So let's move on to just highlighting now, so brightening the under eye. So for that I use like a more yellow tone. So this is the MAC Studio Fix Concealer in NC25. So this I just put Here on my under eyes, my main aim is to get the coverage that I want using as less product as I can. So the only area that I want to brighten is here, and this concealer does go a long way. So there's no point in me applying loads more concealer because it's just going to get a bit messy and I'm just going to be applying more product than I need. So a little bit on my chin, tiny bit just on my forehead, and then I'll just do a little bit on my nose, and then I will just leave that to dry so I can just waft it a little bit because you do get a little bit of extra coverage that way. Again, I'm using the same side of my sponge which I've blended everything else with because I just feel like it blends better that way. Just press that in, a little bit on my nose, right in the centre, just right in this under eye area, just to really brighten like this triangle. Again, getting right into the inner corner just to really brighten it in there, and then I can just take a different side of the sponge and just tap over the edges. Same with this eye, so really concentrate it where you want most coverage and just keep on patting until you've pushed it all in, and then you can work on just tapering out the edges. And then the last thing that I'll do, I am a little bit extra, if I've got anything left on my hand, just give it a little swirl, and then I'll just pat over the edges just so you can't see like any harsh lines and that everything just kind of melts into one another. You can't see where anything starts or finishes. It's a little bit more blended. Okay, so now we need to set, but because this is a soft glam, we want to keep as much kind of glow and luminosity as we can. So I'm only going to set my under eyes because they will definitely crease if I don't, and just the centre, just so we look glowy. We don't want to look like sweaty or too shiny. So the very centre, I want to take that shine away a little bit, and then just under my eyes we need to set. So for that, I'm going to use my Laura Mercier translucent powder. Absolutely love this. I'm going to use my damp beauty blender because this really helps sort of melt the powder in, just so it doesn't look like too powdery and too cakey. So I'm just going to first blend away any sort of creases on my under eyes. I will still get creases on my under eyes because they are dry because of my stupid hay fever. So I'm just taking kind of that amount. I'm only taking enough just to kind of take the shine away and to set it. So I'm only setting that little triangle where we applied like the highlight concealer, and the same on this side. Because I am quite dry, I don't need a lot of setting powder anyway, but I just want enough just to take the shine off and to kind of set it. I'm not going to bake or anything like that. And then literally the tiniest bit around my nose, and then again really tiny bit just in the middle of my brow. Okay, so for the rest and the perimeter of the face, the bronzers are going to help just take that tackiness away a little bit. So I'm going to use a couple of different bronzers, I think. The first one I'm going to use is the Milani Baked Bronzer. This is it's really broken. Everything that I've got is broken. It's in the shade 5. I can't actually, there you go. That's what it looks like. It's broken out of here. This is an illuminating bronzer, so it's going to add more glow to what we've already got. So I'm just going to take the Real Techniques, what is this? The blush brush. Just give it a good swirl. And because we haven't set any of this yet, we don't want to go in and start buffing around because that's going to move the foundation and contour that we've used. So we're literally just going to pat it on, and we're going to go everywhere which we have applied that cream bronzer slash contour, and I'm going to get right into my temples as well. I might not have to use another bronzer actually. I didn't know if this would warm my skin up enough, but I think that it has. Just a little bit over my nose. And then if you just wanted to deepen up your contour a little bit, I'm going to use the Nip and Fab palette, and I'm just going to mix, I think I'm just going to use that middle shade at the top, and only a little bit because these are quite pigmented. I'm just going to deepen up the contour here. Okay, so I am happy with that for now. Let's move on to blush, which I haven't got out. For my blush, I'm going to use my favourite, which is Milani Luminoso, because this is also like an illuminating blush as well. And I feel like all the Instagram models are like very very glowy, aren't they? So we need all the glow that we can get. So I'm just tapping this onto my cheeks, and then I do like to blend it back into the bronzer as well. And I was never ever a blush person, but now I feel like I have to have blush to complete my makeup now. Okay, so let's do highlight. Come to me. Where are you? Oh, there. So for my highlighter, I'm going to use Becca's Champagne Pop, and I'm going to use like a small brush just so I can keep it like concentrated in the areas which I want it, because we've already got quite a lot of glow going on already. And I'm going to start buffing it on to my cheeks, and the more you push it in, buff it in is what I was wanting to say. The more that you buff it in, the more it doesn't look like just like a glittery streak on top of your makeup. We want to look like we're glowing from within, like all the Instagram models do. And I do bring a little bit onto my cheeks as well, so when I smile you can just see it. And just here on my forehead. Okay, then I'm just going to go back into my Nip and Fab palette. I'm going to mix those two together, and then I'm just literally going to dust everywhere. Only very lightly, just kind of buff all this in together. The final thing that I do is use a setting spray, but I spray it onto my sponge, so I'll just do a couple of spritzes and then I'll just like pounce the excess off until it's just like, again, damp. And then I go over and just press all of that in. I don't know why, but I just like to do it this way, and I do feel like it just kind of helps everything melt in together. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly finish off my eyes. I'm gonna put some lips on and then I will be right back. Okay guys, so that completes today's Soft Glam base makeup. It's very Instagram model vibes, which I absolutely love, and it's very glowy as well. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it too. Let me know if you did down in the comments, and please give it a big thumbs up as well. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week in my next one. Bye!